what can London do to help scale companies that we keep giving birth to, but continue to jump ship to San Francisco, where there are many more opportunities and much more risk capital, greater appetite for startups. And we can touch upon the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, which hopefully a few of you will have heard of, and the EIS, which is a similar older scheme, and whether your view is that these are making a difference, or maybe what needs to be done.
How do I say this in a sensitive way? We have a more sceptical venture capital market in the UK than we do in the States. There's no doubt about that. And that's a cultural thing. It's definitely a cultural thing. And also it's a deal flow thing as well. The difference with Silicon Valley and the UK VC market traditionally has been that if you go to the Valley, you pitch a VC, one, they want you to be a bit more positive. In the UK, they want you to be more negative and realistic. In the States, they'd like you to be a bit more, this is the next £1 billion company. In the UK, they'll laugh at you, normally. You've got to match that up with some kind of credibility. But in Silicon Valley, this is what they'll do. If they give you funding, they'll put the legal team around you, they'll put the technical team around you, they've got the whole infrastructure to put around that business to massively increase the odds of making it succeed. Now, what's exciting in the UK is we're starting to build that infrastructure around this Silicon Roundabout, which is really exciting. There's three things that's really exciting me today. Firstly, the general global trend is that not so long ago we had 600,000 SMEs in the UK, now we've got 5 million. And that's because the cost of starting in business has reduced to an internet connection, a laptop and a smartphone, which everyone's already got. So we're getting lots more business, a lot more deal flow, which is exciting. Secondly, in the UK, what's 100% unique is we have tax structures. If you haven't heard of them, look up SEIS, look up EIS. If you qualify for SEIS and you're raising finance and you don't apply, you should be shot. It's the greatest gift the government has ever given for a business raising finance. And that's significantly de-risking investing in your company. You're 70% cheaper than your competitor. It's a brilliant tax scheme. So if you take that, we've got more businesses than ever. We've got less risk of investing in a high-risk asset class. What's the game changer? In mine, this is a biased answer, but the game changer is allowing anyone to be an investor and bringing in a new source of finance. When you combine those three things, and by the way, crowd investing, equity crowdfunding is leading in the UK. We created a market. We have the most unique infrastructure. Combine that with Silicon Roundabout and this support structure and everything that's around, it's really, really exciting time. And I think the government's doing everything to support small to medium-sized enterprise, and I really applaud them. And I think the corporates are doing really good things, as you're seeing with Google. And what we need to see is more venture capital, more VCs, more angel investors. I think crowdfunding is a good way to bring that in, because at the moment, VCs are inundated with too much deal flow and just want nothing.
Anyone else?
I'm not even sure we should bother trying, if I'm honest. I think we're brilliant at the innovation stage, and we've got a fantastic tax regime which encourages early stage investing. And every time we fill a so-called funding gap, we create one somewhere else. So it used to be that the funding gap was at the beginning, that once you got up and got into safe level flight, there was lots of money around, but getting the money to get there was really hard. Then along came things like crowdfunding and SEIS and tax regimes and clever ways to start companies and clever ways to get them invested. And all of a sudden the funding gap's after that stage. All of a sudden there's all these companies getting going, all getting seed capital, and now they're all struggling for the next round of funding. But there's still funding at a later stage, and there'll always be a funding gap. Maybe our role in life is to keep that creativity going, to get those companies going, and not worry too much if some of them fly the nest and go to California. They don't all go there. There's enough of them stay here and go elsewhere. I don't think we should worry too much about it. The only thing I would say is don't try and be Silicon Valley. We're not. I don't think we ever will be, and I don't think we should ever want to be. We're good at what we do, and we should recognise that a bit more often.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was out in Qatar working for a few years, and one of the things we're good at in Britain is exporting knowledge, and that's engineering, teaching, innovation, technology, and so on. And I think all of that exists here in Spain. There's €1 trillion or some radical number of unplaced capital. I think that's kind of trickling its way down into different pots of money. I think Notion Capital launched a 100 million European cloud fund just for cloud. I think you see EC1 Capital, Passion Capital, Wellington now setting up sub 500k funds in London. So slowly but surely those funds are specifically set up. If you go on any investor website, will tell you what the requirements around those funds are and where they are. So I know a lot of guys have gone to the States. The guys at Huddle went over there. There's a lot of great British success stories that went that side. We're having the same discussion, Frank, that we had 20 years ago when it was the dot-com boom. I think it will always be there. There'll always be people. I'm also seeing Iris Capital managing the Orange Publicist Fund coming out of Paris with 3 big funds, 200 million. Van den Ender and Dijkmans, EBC Capital out of Hamburg. All the European funds are coming here and setting up shop as well. Why? Because the talent's here, Google are here, engineering's here, a lot of guys with degrees and PhDs from India and the Middle East and so on, they're all coming here, the universities are here, the knowledge is here, and Cambridge have exchange programs with Silicon Valley and stuff as well. So you just have to look close to home. This stuff's already here. You just got to research it and get amongst it and go out and network and find it.
All right.
Yeah. Dangerous question to answer, the only non-British member of the panel. So, first off, I disagree with Stuart on the fact that brain drain is okay, because I deal with, I've seen that happen a lot where there are companies that we were really interested in working with, having a dialogue, and we've seen them jump down, get accepted to one of the big incubators out of the valley, and jump ship basically. And I think that was missed opportunities for us as a company in VC, but I think it's also bad for the ecosystem. So I think anytime you have that happening, I think it's a bad thing. The question is why. I think really to have a mature ecosystem here, it's just these things take time. When you look at the valley, there are now 3 full generations into building a tech ecosystem. And if you compare London's first iteration to the Valley's first iteration, it's much, much more robust, it's much bigger, there's a lot more going on. So I think it's one of those things that you just can't have it happen overnight. On the question of to what extent do government programs help, I do think that there is a tangible difference, and I think EIS and SEIS are great examples here that have done a lot of really, really good for helping build that culture here. And I think the proof is in the pudding, and I look to examples like the Nordics, where they have the Tekka system in Finland, which is a very, very pro-entrepreneur, pro-funding, very big at giving back into the Finnish community for building tech startups. And they've given out tons and tons of capital to a lot of tech startups there, and you can see how quickly that ecosystem itself is growing. Having said that, I think the one thing that's for certain is that I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that London will be the tech center of Europe. And just looking at the robustness here, people talk about Berlin and stuff like that, but just looking at the infrastructure in place here, you see the amount of activity happening. You see places like Google Campus springing up. You see the big tech companies hiring. You see Facebook, Amazon opening up technology offices here. I'm very, very confident that 15 years from now, we're going to see London as the dominant tech center of Europe.
We just raised 400k last week, 2 weeks ago for Kitsu. Everyone knows Airbnb, right? So it's big, it's massive, it's got $1 billion valuation. So we just got 150k SEIS approved with a family office. It's a syndicate, a mix of funds coming together. They got 400k. They'll probably do a Series A early next year and they'll be off. It's a very open story. It's a great, it's got great potential. Airbnb are the big, £900 gorilla in space, but London has got a great potential yield for the rental market.
Would that be like a UK family office, or there are several international ones?
We're seeing this mix of angels, family offices, SEIS. It's a mix of all these different funds coming together to fund as a syndicate, 500,000, 1 million, whatever. So